Hey guys, welcome back to Phil Plays TCG. In this video, we are doing a discussion type video going over a couple big points of the Dragon Ball Super Fusion World card game, and I could think of no one better to join me on this video than we got Corrosive Bullet to my left and Opened Mango on the bottom here. Guys, thank you so much for hopping on the video with me today.
Appreciate you having us.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I was saying this before we started recording, but basically I feel like this is a great group of people to discuss what's going on because we have three different perspectives here. We have someone like me who doesn't have a locals anymore, who primarily plays the game online, whether it's on webcam or the client. I still collect the cards. I still have aspirations to go play competitively. And then we have Corrosive here, who does still have his locals, who does have, who does play competitively, and the client. And then we have Open Mango. Now, I know you do play the game. I know you play the client. I don't know how much you play the game in person, but I know you're a huge collector and you open boxes like no other, and I'm still very jealous of that. I wish I could do that. But I feel like this is a great group of people to discuss, some points that we're going to talk about today. And that main thing is that the price of Fusion World is insane right now. Like, it's bigger than it ever has been. I feel like even on launch, it has not been as, popular as it is now with prices, sealed products through the roof. Card singles have value now for the first time in like a year and a half, maybe. And this is new water for Fusion World. As we're coming up on the second anniversary set coming up, set 9, Dual Evolutions, and a lot has changed. And my fears are that it is going to be harder to easily acquire cards at affordable prices going forward for players, collectors, whatever it may be. So I want to get some opinions on this here, but I want to start off with Corrosive here because you and I were talking about this yesterday, and actually that's the thing that kind of got me started on wanting to, do this, gave me the idea to start this discussion today, and is that stores, like local game stores, and their price changes to reflect market conditions, and I say market conditions, sarcastically, because, there's a little bit of a discussion of like if it's real market, pricing, or if it's like market manipulation. But you told me your LGS is planning on raising prices for sealed product, so tell me about that.
Yeah, so obviously we've had a discussion at our shop because the initial idea, at least for going into set 9 for us, was that me and a couple of the guys at my local shop were going to invest in a case together.
Yeah,
was going to allow us to kind of get a decent amount of product without completely getting all the product, obviously. And we were told, I guess, like last week, that there's a possibility that just due to the way the market kind of is, we may not be able to afford, not necessarily afford, but we might not even be able to get the case that we're looking for, depending on what the turnout kind of looks like.
Right.
We were told well in advance to sign up for our release event well in advance because we don't know what the turnout's going to look like, which tells you a lot right out the gate that obviously people are coming into the space that may or may not have good intentions, for lack of better words. And then when we were asking about because during the release event, that's when you usually kind of get the product. We were asking what they were kind of looking to sell the boxes for, and we don't have a definitive number at our local shops just yet. We were kind of given a rough ballpark of what it could be sitting at, and our locals shop was saying they were going to potentially put it up for about $300 a box. And that's I guess that's dependent on what the actual market's kind of looking like, right? To some extent, I understand why local shops would raise prices. They can't just sell product at MSRP when everybody else around them is selling it for more than MSRP.
Right.
At the end of the day, they're local businesses. They do need to make a profit in some case to keep their
Yep.
doors open. So the mentality behind raising prices and not selling at MSRP, I 100% get, and I don't fault my shop for doing that. Whether it's necessarily because of market manipulation or whatever the case may be, though, kind of remains to be seen. I think I think a lot of that actually is heavily dependent on what your local market kind of looks like, right? Because Phil, I know you don't have much of a locals at this moment, so in terms of market manipulation, there's not really any going on in your area outside of maybe like people selling their own private stock.
Yeah.
But if there's like for us, there's probably not, for us, it's not necessarily so much market manipulation because our shop is the only shop in like 50-mile radius.
Jesus.
Something like that. Like the closest shop that I can think of, I think is like Fairfax. And that's like just outside DC. So that's like a 2-hour drive to go to a different locals. So
yeah, hell. Wow.
yeah, so our locals, I can't say our locals is necessarily market manipulation so much as it is just our shop trying to keep up with the market. And then there's probably cases where like there's multiple shops that run the game in someone's city, and there's probably market manipulation going on there because they have to be competing with one another. So
right. And that makes sense.
Yeah.
But damn, like, oh, so Mango, like, do you get your product from like a local store, or I guess if you want to jump on, that topic there, has any of your local game stores talked about changing prices, or have they already done that?
Yeah. So, yeah, I to Corrosive's point, I think it's a twofold approach for some stores, right? Because I understand the increased price this time because there's demand for it and there's a lower supply, right? Like this is a economic situation of supply and demand, low supply, high demand causing price fluctuations, right? It's an unfortunate circumstance of the game being fortunately in a very low state because the demand just wasn't there, right? So when stores were ordering boxes, cases at 1 through 8, 1 through 8 plus the mangas, there was absolutely the demand was not there, right? Except for like the first 2 sets, and then the crash was so bad. You had stores selling boxes for so much under retail. Like there were so many boxes under $85, which is below retail, or even distribution pricing, right? So a lot of stores took L's, taking on these products, and the prices went up. I get that some stores were like, "Hey, we need to, raise our price to make up some of that lost capital we had put into the game to support it, support the players, pricing, and all that stuff." Right? So now we're in this situation of all the stores are the ones getting the product. Now they need to make the price. Now, how are they going to support the players to make sure that they get priced at a good enough rate so they don't feel like they're breaking their own bank?
Yeah.
From what I'm seeing on our end, and to Corrosive and your point, my locals is actually pretty decent. And so there's a lot of individuals like who play. So like the stores are more receptive to that. They're not, from my hearing at the moment, I have not seen a substantial increase in the pricing of boxes, but what I'm seeing is a consistent MSRP over the past 3 to 4 sets. It's like FBO 6. So I there has not been a decrease in those prices, which is insane to say because the players are actually supporting the game and they're actually like running out of their product appropriate. So they're not concerned. Going forward, though, I could see that they could increase it because, the initial loss. But for me, I don't even know if I'm going to get my pre-orders. And I do pre-order locally because of the number of people that have now jumped in. So because of that, I do not know. This demand has been insane. Like, and I can give so many cases of not only streamers, just regular people just ordering products constantly, and the demand obviously rising day by day, and I just hasn't purchased the product. So I'm seeing that this is probably going to be maybe, depending on your location, if it's a smaller store who runs on thin margins, they'll take the opportunity to raise the prices by X percentage. Whereas if you have bigger stores that are more consistent and are not as worried about the cash flows, you're going to see them most likely maintain that MSRP or maybe slightly above MSRP by 20 to 30%. And that's what I'm seeing even at one of the local stores I bought a box from yesterday.
Yeah, damn. Like, I mean, I do understand because my locals, for example, did have we had, oh god, for the longest time, sets 2 and 3 were like $70 a box. We had, because my store had so many of them because our locals died, pretty, like, well, I guess it dropped off pretty heavily after 2 because of how bad 2 was for the meta, and we just lost a lot of people coming into play. They didn't want to come back in 3, so they had a bunch of 2 and 3 that they just could not sell. So it was on the shelf for the longest time at $70 a box. And even then, I couldn't justify buying them for $70 a box, because even though $70 a box you think is a steal for almost any card game, the cards in the boxes were not worth it unless you happen to pull like a god rare or like the alternate art secret rares or something like that, which, that was kind of a big problem with how they banned a bunch of cards in 2, and then a bunch of cards in 3 just didn't really do a lot for the meta. Yeah, like 3 was a big change for the meta as a whole, but like for some reason the cards just weren't valued pretty highly, and we did see that pretty much through the next couple sets, up until you mentioned set 6. Set 6 was like the first one that our store didn't get any boxes of set 6. I actually had to get my box of set 6 from Corrosive over here. He mailed me one, which is super awesome of you, buddy. But yeah, like that was like the first time I wasn't able to get a box at like normal MSRP, which to me MSRP based off my locals is about $100, and I paid like $125, $130ish for the set 6 box, I think, if I'm not mistaken. And I remember opening that box and thinking like, man, I wasn't happy with that box. Paying $130. So I cannot imagine if a store like Corrosive was saying like, oh, possibly raising their boxes up to $300. Like, I'm sorry, like if I ever walked into a store and the owner was like, oh yeah, $300 for a box, I would never come back to that store. Like I understand raising prices for demand. Absolutely. But when MSRP used to be like anywhere between like 100 to 120, and they want to raise the price almost 3 times the amount, it kind of, in my opinion at least, and like I said, this is just friendly discussion, no shade on anyone. But if someone store was trying to say like it's justified to like raise the price to like $200 a box or $300 a box, I would tell them to pound sand, and I would never want to support that shop ever again.
Yeah, I'm looking at the current pre-sale pricing for Dual Evolution.
$380.
And yeah, the most recent sale for pre-sale was $388.
And it's consistent sales too. Like there are plenty of sold listings,
Yeah, like within the last 3 days, 5 were sold between $388. One was, or I guess that's the market price I was showing there. But yeah, 5 were sold for around $388. And then 3 days before that was 4 more were sold for $388. 2 more were sold 3 days prior. 8 were sold like at the end of February. So it's like, yeah, like these are like consistent sales that are causing it to do that. Whether that's, the market manipulation we talked about or not, I guess has kind of remained to be seen.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
have data.
Oh, he's got data.
Oh, he's got data. What's the data looking like?
Yeah, my last video had a chart breakdown that I did on specifically like the number of on the secondary market of sales for Fusion World Masters and everything like that.
Yep.
And it really showed that there's a huge skew in demand on various, or like there's a lot of different throughputs of TCGs, right? And then when you're not able to get a particular TCG, right? Say the Goliath that's Pokemon, and you have interest in other TCGs, which I think is contributing to a lot of what we're seeing now. Is you're seeing distribution of interest from strictly Pokemon, Magic, and the big dogs down to the more there's a whole world of TCGs that have kind of opened up to people's eyes.
Mm-hmm.
People are becoming cross-functional collectors, players, orders, and looking at, and due to supply issues on those TCG side has caused significant interest and money to flow downstream, right? And when you're seeing that flow downstream of an $80 million Goliath in 90 days of Pokemon, and you can't get Pokemon product. Well, I like Dragon Ball, I like Magic, I like this, I like that. Let me go buy some of that. Compound that with influencer, the big guys like I'll just mention like Steve Aoki's finally starting to show his stuff up. Like big Pokemon guys are showing off Dragon Ball. Like it's one of those things where it's been a consistent thing. People haven't seen it, but now that there's more eyes on it, right? And people are like, I love Dragon Ball. I tried to go Super Saiyan when I was a kid. Why don't I get that card that looks like me trying to go Super Saiyan?
Yeah.
Right? And when you have that kind of interest come in, like the demand spike, no one accounted for.
Mm-hmm.
And when you can't account for that kind of a demand, Bandai limited supply because players literally almost the game because 2 and Set 4 killed gameplay meta.
Yeah.
And when the product decreased so much, point where they stopped printing premium packs for Masters, they literally deviated the game and split a player base and did all this stuff, reduced product runs, and they finally stabilized the market at 6, which is where a bunch of stuff was going down.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta start, like if you're not following something, it's an issue. But like that, like if you take 10%, even like 5% of interest and bring it into a market that doesn't have that much flow through in the secondary market sales, like I think it was 9,500 sales in Fusion World. Fusion World compared to 1.6 million secondary market sales in Pokemon.
Jesus.
Or 800,000 in Magic, 300,000 in Yu-Gi-Oh, and you take some of that interest and put it into Fusion, what do you think is going to happen?
Right.
That's actually a really good point, because one thing I think a lot of people, maybe us included, one thing we didn't really take into account with why the market kind of boomed the way it did. January we had the Genki Damatsuri.
Yep.
And so we got big reveals like the Moro arc's coming. We got the Dragon Ball Super remake that's coming. We got to also remember there was all the game discussion, and then we also got to remember that there was a segment that was talking about Fusion World in that stream.
Yep.
So like even just from something as simple as that whole presentation from that weekend is enough to really just kind of garner interest into this space. I wouldn't say that and the other aspect too is that this isn't like some out of the blue thing. Like this has happened before in the Dragon Ball card game scene. Like I know the guys in my local talked about, I think it was right around the time that I started playing Masters. There was a big market boom in Masters around set 10 to 12 or something like that, if I remember correctly.
2021.
Yeah, that's about when I started playing. Yeah, so there was a big boom that was going on from there, and prices were completely blown out of proportion, and they were going for a lot more than what they were initially being sold for. And I know there was a lot of like discussion of like, oh, doom and gloom, like the game's gonna die because we can't get product and stuff like that. But now we look at Masters, and it's probably in like its best meta that it's ever been in.
Oh yeah.
And product is readily available, and when like it's not like what people theorized was going to happen with Masters just ended up not happening. Right. Now obviously Masters is also kind of taking a tick up in this market right now too, but I mean that's also to be expected when you're sharing the IP. So it's
right, exactly. Masters in Fusion World, I still think Fusion World might be like hitting up. I think Fusion World is more valuable right now just because it's the main game that Bandai's focusing on. If they're pushing either one, they're pushing Fusion World. Masters, I feel like is right now dealing with a combination of hype, because like you mentioned, Dragon Ball's back, baby. We got big announcements this year, but also Masters, at least from my perspective, is the community is very diehard and it's very passionate about the game. But Bandai definitely feels like they're printing less Masters than they have in a while. I haven't seen a Masters product out in the wild, at like stores, in years. Like my game store I work at, we were getting Masters up until like maybe 2 years ago, and then they just dropped it because I was the only one buying boxes. And then they also dropped Fusion World because same deal. I was like the only person buying product, and they didn't see a really need for it. I might hit them back up now and be like, hey, Fusion World's very popular. You might want to look into like bringing it, getting us product again. Because we keep buying Lorcana for some reason, and that's dead in my area. But I guess I'm all for the hype. I'm all for people like getting value in their cards. I want my cards to have value. I want other people's cards to have value. I want people to feel good about buying product. My only concern is that some of the lengths that store owners will go to say like, oh, I need to price my product this high because, like you mentioned, like, oh, if stores sell at MSRP, then people are just going to come in, buy the boxes at MSRP, and then flip them for like double the price on the secondary market or eBay, TCG, whatever. And I mean, my opinion is that if somebody's looking to buy a box, I think stores really should, be like, hey, I'll sell it to you for MSRP if I can rip the seal off, or if you want to take it home sealed, you gotta have this much. Which, I mean, I get both sides of it. I do. I got a buddy who owns a card shop. Shout out Dark Vassal Games up in Cedar Falls. He did start doing that with One Piece and Pokemon because he wanted to make sure people got their hands on these cards for like affordable prices. But people that wanted to take their product home sealed or anything like that, he did charge them market price, and he did get some backlash. But more people were happy with that. More people were like, awesome! I was able to get my my ETB for $50. I was able to get my box of One Piece for $100. Like, thank you for giving me the option to do that. And then some people complain like, oh, I just want to open the box myself, or I just wanted to keep it in my sealed collection. And it's like, okay, well, if you want to have a sealed collection, you need to, I guess, understand that you're going to pay probably a little bit more to get a sealed collection. And then if that's your thing, awesome. But you understand that you're probably going to have to pay more because that's just the kind of market, or that's at least the environment that we're in right now when it comes to players versus collectors versus investors versus like sealed collector stuff like that. My thing is, if a store tried to sell me a $200 box, not even talk about $300. If they wanted to sell me a $200 box, I couldn't do it because you look at prices of sealed product, and I'm seeing like, hell, even boxes of Saiyan's Pride are going for around $175. You look at the box, like you look at the cards there, you would have to specifically pull like one of the like top 5 cards in the set to even like feel good about that box. Or at least that's how I look at a box. If I spend, for example, my boxes are usually about $100, $110. If I take that box home and I open my cards and I get maybe like $40 worth of like hits or like super rares, altards, anything like that, I'm going to feel bad because I feel like I could have just bought the cards. I could have spent $70 on singles or $100 on singles that I wanted instead of paying $110 for a box that gave me no cards I wanted. And like, for example, this actually just happened with the One Piece EBO3 Heroines box. I was able to get one box for $100. I opened it and I pulled $70 worth of cards, and there were absolutely no cards that I wanted to use in any decks that I had planned. Absolutely, like one of the worst boxes I ever opened in my entire life. The box to me was worthless. Then I see my buddy pull like $2,000 worth of cards out of his box, and I'm thinking like, damn, this feels awful. But if somebody were to come up and say, yeah, $200 for a box of Dual Evolution, I I don't think I could justify that. You know, you would have to pull like you'd have to pull like an alternate art secret rare, a god rare, a alternate art leader, like and plus something else that's pretty darn good. Because I mean, we have no idea what the market, like the pre-sale market, is for these cards right now. Because if you go on TCG Player, nothing has prices on there. They're all just under pre-sale. The only thing that has an official price are the cases and the boxes. And can you imagine like spending like $200, God forbid, $300 on a box and getting just, you know, the cards that aren't worth it, you know?
Yeah, I think that's a good kind of bridge point, because I think a lot of like what is happening in the market right now is just due to the fact that the people that are reselling this product don't know what it is that they actually have.
Yep.
As long as I've been playing the game with masters and everything, like the prices of what singles go for, or even like what sets go for, has always been vindictive of what that meta is doing and how meta viable those cards are. It's always been that way. People will actually sit there and tell you that that's not how card value works, which like that's how it's always been though. Like you look at kind of like you can kind of look at what's going on. Like set 6 is is a prime example of what you're talking about. Like set 6 like that was a very like self-contained like set, right? There wasn't anything that was too strong or egregious in the set 6 meta, or that really like makes it that valuable, right?
Yeah.
All those decks in that set were relatively self-contained. You had to pull majority play sets for the decks in that set in order to even play those decks.
Right.
Some maybe minor stuff you would throw in from previous sets to kind of flesh them out, but like nothing that was so like obscenely gross or broken that would warrant set 6 being sold for the price that it's at. Mm-hmm. We could also take that into account with like singles right now too, right? So, for example, the main example that I have is like set 7, right? Set 7 was a big set with a lot of cards in that set. Like a lot of those decks are relatively self-contained, but a lot of the single cards in that set can be utilized in other outside metas and decks.
Yeah.
So the example I have here is pulled up is for the secret rares, obviously. So let's play a little bit of a game. What, in terms of the alt arts for both secret rares,
Ooh.
which one do you think is actually going for more right now in terms of what people are looking to sell these cards for?
What's set?
Set 7 was Wish for Shenron, right?
Yes, that was Wish for Shenron.
Okay.
Okay, well, Gohan is clearly... I'm gonna step in on this because this is my boy. All right, Beast Gohan is one of the most playable SCRs we've had in a very long time.
Oh, yeah.
List of what we're seeing, right? Like, very versatile in almost every green deck, right?
Yep.
And especially with the set 9 coming out with the new Beast Gohan leader,
Oh, goodness.
I believe he's super playable, right? So, and on top of that, you have the SCR that came out with that which let's not talk about the alt art of that place. Like, holy crap, that one was just like, I'm still pissed. I was looking at it for $65 and I was like, trigger later. Dang, it went to like an $800-900 card. But the point is, card not as playable, but it is able to be run in decks. And to be fair, one of the most fun RNG decks that we have is the Shenron deck, and you kind of need a copy or two in there.
Yep.
To gamble, clearly, because I opened a lot of boxes. And to go back to that point, like, you know what? No, I'll stop there because I'll give you guys the opportunity. But I think both SCRs are super, like, the Beast Con is super playable, and there's a niche playability for the Goku. So that's why that's that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. Phil? What about what? I mean, you guys probably already know you already know the pricing and stuff.
Oh yeah, no.
I mean,
like what Mango mentioned, yeah, the Gohan is the way more playable card, but the Goku all of a sudden just shot up in value. That alternate art secret rare Goku, it's a gorgeous card. I love the artwork on this card. Has no business being over $800. Like,
Yeah.
absolutely no business being that expensive.
Yeah. So for people watching, just so for clarification, so they have all the information. The alt art card, the 1-star alt art card for Beast Gohan, the last sell on that was $175.
Which
you
is
go over, which
departure from like what it's going for now.
Yeah, I mean, because it used to go for $50, $60 here and there. So you're talking maybe like a 2.5 times increase on what it sold for.
Yep.
You look at the 1-star alt art Sleepy Goku is what is referred to as the 1-star alt art Goku, the triple striker. Last sell on that was $900.
Collector versus player.
Yes. It's 100%, and it's exactly like you guys said. Like, Beast Gohan has a lot more versatility. It can be run in multiple green decks, and it has high functionality in every single one of those decks. Whereas the Goku card, its playability is niche. It is heavily used in the Shenron deck because that is the boss card of that deck, and it needs to utilize it. Other black decks could utilize it, but it's usually only kind of run of as a one-of in other black decks. It's not something that you're relying on to get the win. It's something like that's your oh crap button. You hit the button, you got to play it to go for game type of card.
Exactly.
And it's just a prime example of what my earlier point was, is that I think a lot of the market value that we're kind of seeing in terms of inflation, a lot of it is just these people that are reselling these cards. They don't know what it is that they have. They don't understand like what it is, because these are both alt arts from the exact same set with completely varying playability on both sides. And yet for some reason, the more playable card, the one that is probably more sought after and needs to be sought after to be run in their decks, is going for a quarter of the price.
Which is just insane, and
it's not. It's really not. And I'm going to tell you this from like a data analytics perspective.
Okay.
Right? Like this isn't playability. The reason is because when you look at any game, any TCG, and even Fusion World, there are two. Well, there's multiple individuals, but two major categories. One is player versus collector. When you have a player base that utilizes, there's utility to the cards themselves, right? The utility versus collectability is a huge factor. When you look at the aesthetic of the card, Sleepy Goku takes it all day over the Beast Gohan, even though the alt-art Beast Gohan looks insanely sick. Obviously, the God Rare, the Super Alt, is way beyond the Sleepy Goku in my personal opinion, but that's way harder to pull, and that's why you see the prices for that, and we can get into that. When you see a lot of collectors come in, so when you talk, like, the demand is on the collections, not necessarily on the playable side. I'm pretty sure when most games are played, you have maybe 10%, 20% of that the people who buy the product that actually either play the game, else the other is the collector base that just enjoys the shiny cardboard and looking at it every day.
Yep.
And that is why you're seeing the egregious discrepancy in price. It's because the collectors value that card more because they have the same rarity over the Gohan. Even though it's more playable and everything like that, it's not as collectible or appealing to the collector eye. And that's why you're seeing that.
True, and that could be. Oh, I'm sorry, Croza. Go on.
No, I was just gonna say I would love to know like the ratio of like how much of the people that are buying this card are actually collectors, and how much of the people that are buying that card are looking to jump on the train and resell for profit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely
no doubt there are collectors in the game, and I don't want to alienate those people that are paying that kind of money to collect. But but my point was more so just like in terms of the inflation, like it's in terms of the inflation and the difference in discrepancy of like what like the Beast Gohan's going for versus what the Sleepy Goku's going for is just how much of it is for actual collectors and how much of it is actually people just trying to get ahead and make a profit and benefit off of other people's spending.
Right.
And so
Sure. Like I would say like if it was me look at as a collector perspective here, because I do both, right? But like heavy on the collection side, I would say there's like the justification is that Goku's probably like $300 to $400, $500, right, from a collector perspective.
Yep.
But somebody coming in trying to do that resale, like a whatnot streamer or a breaker, whatever, they might value it a little bit higher. And you know, the hype gets people excited. They're like, man, this card is great, and it kind of builds and becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy to get to where it needs to get to, right? Like, which is now that almost $1,000 mark.
Yeah, and I think at least for me, I mean, I think to some extent, I think a lot of people can kind of resonate with this, and it's more so just I feel like our game was very undervalued for the longest time.
100.
There's like the fact that you could get like, and I remember when like set 2 dropped, and Top Coup was obviously the big thing. Even like when Top Coup before the ban list, like Top Coup was relatively affordable for the most part. I think the alt art Kefla was maybe going for maybe like $30 at the time.
Yep.
If I remember correctly. But like obviously the ban list hit, and then you know Kefla was going for like cents. Like just the standard, like even like the alt art Kefla was going for like $1.50, $2 maybe.
Yeah.
Our secret rares are, in terms of like secret rares, like I think our Fusion World's probably one of the cheapest in terms of the card space. A base alt art secret rare, depending on the secret rare itself and what it's actually doing in the meta, can go anywhere from like $18. Like I remember the Golden Frieza from set 2 was going for about that price when it first launched. To like the Super Saiyan 4 Goku, which was going for like 30 per. Secret rares are relatively affordable back in the day. But you could even look at like alt arts, and alt arts were not going for like any sort of value whatsoever. You do that sort of comparison with like Masters. Masters SRs actually kind of hold their value because Masters obviously only carries one secret rare, and you're not even guaranteed to get that secret rare. It's like 2 secret rares in a case. So in Masters, while the secret rares are like the game enders, they're the ones that help you to win the game. The SRs are the ones that really drive those decks kind of forward, and so those SRs like have higher value on the Masters side of things.
Yep.
And so when you look at like the alt art perspective of Fusion World, it's like the SRs do kind of make these decks as well to some extent. Not so much to the secret rares, because the secret rares really are the foil of any Fusion World deck, but it's just even the prices for alt art SRs were always very undervalued, very cheap by comparison to like other games. And so there is a part of me that is like, yeah, like some of these alt arts and stuff, they do need an increase in value to some extent. Our game did need to be worth more than what we're seeing it currently sitting. So in some capacity, like the boom is like helping the game in that aspect. Like we're now seeing value in the game. It's just in certain aspects, in certain isolated incidents, we are seeing stuff like Sleepy Goku going for a crazy amount of money, and realistically, like Mango's number of like $500 feels more realistic than $900 that we're kind of seeing on the market right now.
Oh, yeah, they're just trying to see what they can get. You know, I look at the Gohan God Rare though, and not gonna lie, I kick myself in the foot, you know, and the whole body actually, because now I'm seeing that card go for like anywhere from $600 to $1,200, and I sold mine for about $330 a couple months ago.
Well, on the bright side, the last sale date on that God Rare was only $500.
Okay, see, that's the thing. Yeah, it's buyouts, I'm not saying that for everything, but like a card, like for example, the Beast Gohan God Rare, there were buyouts. Now there's only 3 listings. The cheapest being 1,200. Then you have 2,000, and then you have 2,500. And you have people on TCG Player doing buyouts and then posting the card for like a crazy amount of money, and just kind of hoping that like, oh, you got no other option, you might as well just buy it from us. Sure, it's twice the price of what it last sold for, but where else are you going to buy this card from? And then, of course, if somebody buys it for that really high price, then all of a sudden that sets a new precedence for people to start selling it even higher than that. And that's what I kind of worry about in most cases. But I guess going back to something I meant, my point I made earlier about stores selling boxes for really high prices. I look at it like two ways. When you buy a box for like MSRP, being that 100, 120 bucks, you feel better about your purchase because you feel like, worst case scenario, even if you don't pull like the greatest hits, combining all the SRs, the secret rare, or alt arts you pick up, you're going to get close to that value. Plus you get all the commons, rares, uncommon stuff you need to play the game and collect. You feel good about that. But when you're buying a box for almost double the price, you have a higher expectation that like, okay, I really need to get something that's worth almost that amount of money for me to feel good about my purchase. And maybe that's just me personally. Let me know in the comments, guys, if there's people out there that feel the same way with their boxes, and you guys can tell me that too afterwards. If you, after my rant, how you look at buying a box, or what your thought process is when you buy a box for a certain amount of money. And if stores are going to sell for a really high price, that could mean one of two things. One, the product might sit on the shelf. People aren't willing to spend that kind of money on, a box, because players, they want to play cards, that they want to get the cards that they want to build their decks. And if the box is too expensive, they do a cost analysis and they're like, okay, well, I need this many copies of this card, this many copies of this card. How much is it going to cost me to get my play sets? Oh, it's going to cost me like $150 to get a play set of everything I need, base rarity and everything. Sure, I'm just probably going to spend $150 buying all my singles rather than spending $200 or more on a box. But then you have the other side. If boxes aren't being bought for really high prices, there's going to be less singles. If there's less singles, that means the singles are going to cost more. And then you might be spending like over $200 buying all the singles you need. God forbid you need multiple SCRs like Green Piccolo did, because the reason I didn't play that deck like much at all after proxying was because I couldn't afford to pay like $30 per Gohan SCR, because I pulled no Gohan SCRs. Out of 3 boxes besides the God Rare, I only pulled, the God Rare was the only Gohan I pulled. I didn't pull any other Gohan, so I couldn't play that deck. And then now looking at it, it's like $50 for a base rarity secret rare Gohan. I'm dropping $200 to get 4 Gohan secret rares. And that's just a playset of one card, not including like other cards I need to get.
A box is worth.
Right. Right. But it just kind of shows, it kind of goes into the fact that if there's less people buying boxes because the boxes are so expensive, there's going to be less singles out there. And if there's less singles, there's going to be higher price singles. And some people may not be able to afford to buy or play the deck they want to because the cost of the singles are too expensive too. Let's look at it. The Gogetas. The 3 Gogetas we're getting in this next set all have secret rares. All secret rares are really, really good. You're probably going to want to run at least 2 to 3 copies. Maybe if you're crazy, you want to run a full playset of a secret rare in your deck. Don't think you need to, but some people might want to, tech that out. So if we look at the Gohan as just kind of a base, if the secret rares are going to be $50 and above, and you need to run multiple copies of those in a deck, some people are just going to be priced out of playing a certain deck because they can't afford the secret rares, to make the deck competitive. So then it kind of goes into another problem of, is this game pay to win? Because like certain decks that run the secret rares are going to be way better than decks that don't run a secret rare. Like the Mastered Ultra Instinct Goku deck doesn't run a secret rare. That deck's going to be probably pretty cheap to build in comparison to Black Gogeta that might be 2 to 3 times more expensive to build. And so then I don't know, maybe I'm kind of going all over the place, different thoughts going in my head. But I just want to make sure that collectors are able to get stuff they want, cards they want. I want players to be able to build the decks that they want. And I feel like if stores go crazy above MSRP, we're going to have a problem on both sides. It's... I don't know. Like, either one of you guys can, tell me I'm wrong or, add in your discussion, points.
You're wrong.
Damn, man, I thought you would wait a little bit first.
So any game, regardless of the TCG, especially Fusion World, bro, like, it's every mentality you should have going into opening a box, which is my mentality, is you are going to lose your butt off on that box, right? Like that you're accounting for a fun cost. There is a fun cost associated with opening a sealed product, right? If you're talking about playing a game, talking about collecting or whatever, it's always better to buy
the singles, yeah.
The price, even if you're getting a box at $100, say you get three boxes, right? You're saying you got 3 boxes, well, that's $300. You're saying an SCR is $30, $50, $200 for a play set. Guess what? All the SRs and every common you can get for another $100 to make it out to $100. And $300, you're gonna booster box where you may not get everything you need. 3 booster boxes where you may not get everything you need. Well, same $300, you're gonna get exactly what you want to play. I guarantee it. In this game, you will get it. Regardless if it's a new set, old set, or whatever, unless some bull honky crazy stuff going on where there is such a short supply and all this other stuff going on, then you're going to have an issue competing. But like for the most part, and then this is across any TCG, it's just better to buy the same. You open boxes for the fun of it. Like you cannot expect that like you will get your full value, 50% of your value, 80% of your value out of a box. Like that is a thinking that nobody should ever go into when you're opening a sealed product. You're going to enjoy that thrill of, oh man, am I going to pull the super alt? Am I going to pull the dope SR alts? That's what you're really going in for. Not going in, build a deck.
It is gambling at the end of the day.
It is a gamble. It really is.
Yeah. I might have a little bit of a hot take with the way the market is right now.
Ooh,
the digital client might actually have some value now.
damn.
The manga's up.
The digital client might be affordable compared to the physical TCG,
Which is nuts to think about.
Yeah. So
that is very nuts.
Like you got to think, like if the market value of a box for set 9 is going for $200 to $300 depending on what it is, you could spend $50 on code cards and then spend $150 on in-game currency for gems, and you could build a majority of the play sets you need for all of the decks in that game for the same price as you would one box.
Yeah,
that's nuts.
Not taking into account needing full play sets of secret rares. Like you would, with $200, you could easily get a full play set of SRs and all your leaders that you need, plus whatever wild cards you end up crafting along the way to just be able to play a lot of those decks. Plus the fact that they are being relatively generous with giving out wild cards right now. Like I think within the past couple campaigns, they've given out 2 or 3 secret rare wild cards. So like obviously like with those 3 wild cards, you can get your playset of one of those secret rares for one of those decks. So as weird as it is to say, and as weird as it is to even talk about, like I think the with the way the market is currently right now, the digital client might actually have value, and it might be worthwhile for players to actually sink a little bit of money into the client if they're not going to be investing into the physical aspect of the game.
The value.
Value. I mean, yeah, it does make sense. I've if anybody's watched my channel, I've been very skeptical and I'm very like harsh on the client with some of its practices being like, the pull rates and the fact that they still haven't made it easier to put in codes. Like, God, Pokemon has a freaking QR scanner. Please put that on your pack codes. My fingers hurt. But the yeah, I mean, there have been new changes, new updates that have made it easier to get cards you want, crafting alternate art cards. Like, yeah, don't get me wrong, an alternate art card in the game doesn't hit the same as an alternate card in my hand I can hold. Even taking out the value and the financial aspect of it, just like holding the really fancy card in your hand just feels good. Like, this Goku that I pulled, like, I love this card, and I have it now on my shelf to remind myself how cool this card looks. But I pulled multiple God Rares on the client, and I'm just like, oh, that's neat. And then I just move on because it has no value to me because it's just a digital card. And I don't get to, like, hold the digital card in my hand as I play. But, yeah, I mean, there's going to be more value. There's going to be more incentive for people to play the client, which maybe Bandai wants. Like, there's been that, rumor that Bandai really just wants to make Fusion World a digital-only game and cut out the single cards altogether because, more money in their hands. But that's just a whole other rumor we don't need to get into. But yeah, I mean, what Mango said, like, I get it. I really shouldn't be looking at it like that. But I feel like there are a lot of people that correlate opening boxes to, wanting to play their game. Like, there's been a lot of comments of people saying, like, even in my Discord, in my community, basically saying that, like, if their LGS prices their boxes too high, they're probably just done with the game because they can't afford it. And even taking out the, like, not wanting to, look at opening a box as a financial thing. Some people, like, let's be real here. The economy sucks right now. Everybody's kind of in a rough spot. Well, not everybody. A lot of people are in a rough spot. And card games or whatever their hobby is just something to help take their mind off of the bad things in life. And that's certainly one of the reasons I love my hobbies, is it helps me forget about some, negative things going on in the world. And it just
Life in general.
Right. Yeah. Like, it helps, it helps you to have something to look forward to. And I look forward to every time a new set drops for either Dragon Ball or One Piece or hell, even Pokemon when I'm interested in that. It's a good feeling to be looking forward to something. And when all of my hobbies seemingly keep going up in price and my paychecks don't go up in price the same way, I then have to decide, like, oh, well, I used to be able to buy like 2 to 3 boxes. Now, if I want to be able to enjoy my hobby being opening packs, building decks, all of that, I now have to decide, well, am I going to take money from my food or from other things I'm trying to do to invest more into this hobby, or am I going to go from like 3 boxes down to only 1 box now? And at that point, if I'm only buying a single box, to me, that just doesn't feel like, if I'm spending $300 on 3 boxes versus $300 on a single box, to me, that just doesn't. If you're
if you're playing the game and you're only buying 1 box, you're not going to be playing the game with just 1 box.
Right.
It's not.
You're gonna have to spend that money.
At least competitively. Like, competitively speaking, you cannot play the game with just 1 box.
Right.
You need at least multiple.
Exactly.
I understand that mentality. I understand both mentalities. Like, I get, when I buy a box, I definitely go into buying a box with the mindset that I could walk away with nothing.
Yep.
I could walk in. I can go open this box, and there's not a secret rare in this box at all, and I'm just gonna have to live off of the rest of the spoils that's in there. And so, like, when I buy a box, like, I already go in with the mentality of defeat, just because just so I'm not disappointed when I don't get what the thing.
Dang right, son.
But at the same time, yeah, it's like buying 1 box for $300 versus buying 3 boxes for $300, like, yeah, definitely does not have that same feel, and it kind of makes you feel like, well, what was the point of buying the 1 box if I can't play the game? So
Right. And I also look at the mentality of, like, maybe I'm lucky and I pull something really fancy out of that box that, like, I don't have an attachment to. Like, if it's a fancy card that, like, other people want but I don't, I could use that card. I could sell that card and then get the money I need to finish, like, buying the singles that I want. That's how I've always looked at it, you know. But if I spend like $300 on a box and I pull like nothing that's worth anything, then I'm like, well, I should have just bought the singles. Like Mango said, like at that point, yeah, I probably should have just skipped buying the box altogether and just bought singles going forward. But I guess that's also how a lot of people look at, you know, paying for their hobby, as well as flipping the really valuable cards that they don't want for cards that they do want, or to recoup cost on like their case or their multiple boxes that they bought, because everyone wants to make their hobby affordable. And that's how some people do it. That's a lot of people in my One Piece community do, is like they'll get a case, sell all the alt arts or singles they don't want, and then keep the stuff they do want. Some people like playing with fully altered out decks, you know. So, like, and earlier that was a lot more attainable than it is now. Especially if you're trying to play Shenron at max value, you ain't spending like $2,400 on, you know, a playset of that guy. And
I mean, if you're a baller, you could go ahead and do it and flex on a person.
Oh yeah, no, I got friends in the One Piece community that like played manga, like a full playset of manga rares, and I'm like, you're insane. You're flipping this. You're like just flipping this card around. Like I hate that. But you could. I just hope that these prices do stabilize, because I do feel like some products, some like seal product, I think is overpriced at the moment. I do feel like the boxes should be worth more than they currently are. Like maybe $100, $120 is not really, you know, feasible anymore. But I just feel like there are like the scalper mentality of it, you know. People are buying whatever product they can, selling it between themselves to, you know, manipulate the market to show like, oh, these are selling for this price, when in reality it's a couple people selling the box between themselves, passing the money around. It's not real, like, not a real purchase. It's just people trying to make it look like something should have this much value when it really doesn't. You know, looking at some of the singles, they haven't sold for the crazy prices that they're listed at right now. Gohan, for example, you know, because they're just trying to get people they're trying to get one person to buy it for that really high price, and then they can justify selling it for even more than that. I want everyone to be happy in the end. I want collectors to be happy with their purchase and their cards. I want players to be able to feasibly afford the game, you know, whether it's buying singles or buying boxes. I want the community to do good, because god damn it, this is what Fusion World should have been in the beginning. You know, we should have had like these single prices. These should have been, you know, these should have been expensive in the beginning. Now, there are certain alt arts that don't have value. I'm looking at the red-backed Majin Ku that I pulled out of one of my boxes, which he's a $10 red card, which is crazy to me. I pulled that in the same box as I pulled the Piccolo SR alt art from set 7, which is like a $5 card right now.
Yeah.
Which, you know, though I don't know why those aren't expensive. You know, there's probably a lot of reasons why, but I don't know. I just realized we're almost at an hour. And I have been loving this conversation though, but I think this is probably like a good spot for us to wrap it up. So I feel like I've talked a lot. I want to give you guys the floor to, you know, kind of, you know, give your final take and opinion on like the future of the game with these prices. You know, what are you hoping for? What do you fear? Stuff like that. Corrosive, let's start with you.
I mean, I'm a very optimistic person.
Yeah, you are.
I'm very optimistic. I remember when like the start. I remember when like set 2 happened and everyone was saying that, oh, the game's dying. I remember after the first anniversary, people had a lot of gripes with the game, and I was one of those people that was saying that, like, trust that by, you know, the second anniversary, things were going to start turning around. Like things were going to start getting better on the digital client. The decks were going to improve. The meta was going to stabilize and it was going to be enjoyable, and it has. I mean, once the new producer kind of took over, and we've been getting, we got set 7, we got set 8, we got Manga Booster set 2, we got set 9. Despite the fact that the market's crazy, set 9 looks awesome in terms of set. So, I mean, the game itself has actually turned around. So I'm going to keep my optimism with the market, and I'm going to say that just like it did with Masters back in the day, years and years ago, that the market will eventually stabilize. Things will come down to normal. It may not go down to what it was before. It might not be, the game might not be as cheap as it was before.
Right.
But that being said, what is happening right now, I think, is going to help make the market what it was always supposed to be, like you said from the beginning. And so, I'll remain optimistic. Hopefully, I'm right again, and that the game does just flourish. And also, like I said before, like if we're complaining about pricing and everyone can't get a hold of their physical stuff, play the digital. The digital is going to be a great outlet for you to be able to play the game. Even there are things that still need to be adjusted and fixed. Like obviously, crafting system should just be a proper crafting system. But in terms of pricing, like again, you should be able to get a majority playset or a full playset of the entire set for the same price as you would potentially one booster box. So if like the client, I think right now is a great place to play the game. If you can't play physically, I would advise people be a little more open to trying out the client with the second anniversary around the corner. So
awesome. All right, Mango, what you got?
Yeah, I mean, for me, say that there were dark days and we're looking at brighter futures. Kind of like put your sunshades on. We're heading to the brightest suns. If we, the path stays as it is, I think the interest is, the eyes are here. Bandai needs to capitalize on it. The players need to capitalize on it. The collectors need to capitalize on it. I think there's, for the day, it is going to be a Bandai decision. And as they are a corporation, corporations love their dollars. They're not going to do something that takes dollars out of their pocket. They're seeing interest. And I want to make this point clear. They are going to need to increase print runs going forward because of the demand that's happened. How the percentage that they increase of product needs to be scaled to the demand, because what had happened when 1 and 2 released was that there was so much hype and demand. Booster boxes were hitting like $200 a box on release, right? Like similar to situations where now did a massive reprint of those sets and pretty much crushed it from a collector perspective. And obviously the meta wasn't really great. And I think they've stabilized that, as Corrosive said, and they are going to, if they continue down this path, they're going to see success. And everyone in that, and then everyone eats, right? Like Bandai eats because their product sells, collectors eat because they can collect their cards, and players can eat too because they now have more cheaper and more affordable cards because more boxes are getting ripped. However, if they bombard the market with, like, say, a 50% reprint of a set, they are going to depress the price so much that it is going to lead to the same situation, which is something nobody wants, because the game is super fun. Personally, best game I've ever played. I'm sure, people enjoy like their Magic, their Pokemon and everything. It was just fun, especially with the online client. Like, and going forward, they really have to balance, because arts that they're putting in, the visual arts, the alternate arts, the way every card looks and feels is just, the texturing is on a different level. They're hitting new sides with their design, their playability, and doing things that I think are really positive for the game. But they really need to manage the game strategically going forward, because as collectors, as players, you want to see value in your cards long term so that you can continue to sustain the game going forward.
Yep.
And if all those pieces come together, I'm very optimistic about how things are going to go. And the fact that there's so many people coming in, I welcome each and every person. And then something I wanted to point out earlier, that the card values, and I think we touched on it, but never really dived. The card values were so depressed. Like, you can't a God Super Alt be $300-400 when a case is $1440 at
Right.
retail, and you're not guaranteed one in a case. Super Alt or the regular Alt SCRs are 1 in 6 boxes. Like, we're seeing the depressed value finally like breaking its head where it needs to go and be, and happy that those people who have stuck with the game are finally seeing some values. Yes, some people sold early. I sold early, sold early. It doesn't matter where you sold as long as you perpetuate it down X number of years. And if the game continues in the place it is, you're going to see that value rise. And you're going to see yourself have more fun, not only with collecting, playing, but being part of this great game.
Absolutely. Love that. You know, like, yeah, we didn't talk too much about it, but yeah, this is set 9. This is the 2-year anniversary. Like, I understand the hype is there. You know, these cards look great. These decks look awesome. You know, there's so much hype now around the game. It's only going to be up from here. We just hope that Bandai prints appropriately. You know, not too much to water the game down, the value down, but also enough that people don't have to like fist fight each other in a Costco to get product. That's all we can hope for. But guys, we'll wrap it up here. We're a little over an hour. Thank you to my guests for hopping on the channel here. Link for their channels in the description down below if you were not aware of their existence and now know of them, which surprising you didn't know. These guys are fantastic in the community, so if you're not subscribed to them, go subscribe. They are fantastic dudes, as you can see in this video. So guys, once again, thank you so much for hopping on. We'll definitely maybe we'll do this again. Next couple months after. We'll see how the community or how the game is going in the next couple months. Maybe this could be something where we do every now and then. Get some feedback from the content creators and the community as a whole. But no, you guys are awesome for hopping on. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the invite.
I appreciate you having us.
Absolutely, guys. Like and subscribe to my channel. Hype up the video so we get this out there so more people can see this discussion video. Like I said, go subscribe to them. Go hype up their latest videos. We need to get Corrosive to over 1,000. We need to get Open Mango to over 2,000. Let's hit up those next those next 1,000 goals. Let's help them out
and get Phil to 5.
And
let's go.
Let's go. We're coming. We're doing it, guys. Thank you so much. Until the next video, guys. You all take care. Have fun. Stay safe and enjoy the hobby.
Peace.
Peace.